Good morning, everyone. Brothers, sisters, psychonauts, and seekers of truth. It is Ananka, and welcome to my bazaar. Today, I have an MXE/DMT and mushrooms trip report for you. The title of this trip report is Mother Earth, Father Space, and was submitted to Erowid in 2011 by the user Tree Aliens. With all that being said, let our story begin. First off, this will not be a very objective report, because my experience of time was rendered totally non-linear for the majority of the experience. I am fairly experienced with dissociatives, having tried DXM, nitrous oxide, 4-MeO-PCP, and extensive experience with ketamine. So I hope I am able to provide some insight into the nature of this chemical compared to others, mainly ketamine. I started off the day with 400 milligrams of SAMe, an antidepressant supplement, and 3 grams of paracetam. I don't think either of these played a very significant role in my experience. After playing music for most of the day, I decided to start the experience around 6:30 p.m. I ate a 2.5 gram blue penis envy psilocybin mushroom. In the last few months, whenever I do dissociative drugs, I like to combine them with a psychedelic to guide me through the trip. I think of dissociatives as opening a vast and dark void, an inner space, and I see that psychedelics is bringing a certain light and guidance to this space. I chose the mushroom because it gives me a feeling of being connected to the earth and something ancient, while dissociatives give me the feeling of being connected to space, technology, and the future. I relaxed for about half an hour, listening to music with no effects from the mushrooms yet. Around 7 p.m., I decided to try my first line of methoxetamine. I had several measured lines of 50 milligrams each on a glass plate. I divided one line into 2 roughly 25 milligram bumps and snorted one. Waited about 10 or 15 minutes and only felt a vague feeling of heaviness, so I did the second one. Around 7:30, I got up to go to the bathroom and definitely felt like gravity was stronger, but didn't notice much of anything mental. I have done plenty of ketamine in the past, so I may have somewhat of a permatolerance to related substances. I did another 50 milligrams, and the psychological effects started. Sometimes the dissociative effects kind of come through the back door of the mind. I think I feel pretty normal, and then I try and do some simple task and realize I am severely altered. One of my friends came over somewhat unexpectedly to talk to me. I was able to think about what I wanted to say, but I could only speak very slowly. Language seemed very incongruent with reality. We agreed to meet up again another day since I was unable to communicate. With ketamine, I can usually still talk, although the words come out non-linear and fragmented. With methoxetamine, I could barely talk at all. I went back downstairs and did a third line. Now at 150 milligrams, I was almost totally unable to comprehend outside information. One of my roommates started playing the drums very loud downstairs, which startled me. My other roommate came in and told me his cat had a severe heart problem and was at the vet's and that he might die. The third roommate came in the room and turned on the TV to MTV, specifically the show Jersey Shore. To me, this situation was an incomprehensible hurricane of information. I wanted to console my roommate about his cat, but I couldn't talk. The television was blaring over saturated nonsense that seemed like horrifying culture vomit of information. The walls started to breathe with neon energy, and I could tell the mushrooms were kicking in. The come up on mushrooms can often be confusing and overwhelming, and usually leads to some kind of moral introspection about my life. So this, combined with the onslaught of information, was too much. I got up and staggered around the room, looking at the TV and then back at my roommates over and over. My roommate led me downstairs where he got out his sitar, which has a contact mic on it so you can plug it into an amplifier. This is where the perception of time was lost. The basement looked gigantic, probably 3 or 4 times its actual size. It is littered with cords from electronic instruments, but the cords seem to stretch on for miles, intertwined with everything in the room. My roommate started to play the sitar, the other the drums. I was overtaken by beauty with the music they were playing. I felt totally ecstatic, and I was unable to tell if I was also playing music with them or not. I was just lying still on the floor. I had a great feeling of spiritual transcendence. There seemed to be infinite meaning in the sound of the sitar. It glowed with a pure light. The songs seemed to go on forever, but when they finally stopped playing, I told them I thought it was beautiful. I was almost near crying. My roommate talked for a while about existence, biology, and technology, and mused about how ridiculous of a time it is to be alive. He did most of the talking, of course. I went back upstairs, and I noticed I had some trouble moving my muscles. Felt like the sideways gravity of ketamine, but not as severe. My girlfriend came home and told me she had a very stressful day. I was unable to console her, and unable to understand the story of her day, which made me feel guilty. We lay in bed together for a while, and I was able to console her by cuddling with her, instead of talking, which was very calming. She had to go to sleep, so I went to my room. I decided to do more methoxetamine to further explore. I wandered around the room for a while, and then weighed out 100 milligrams, double-checked the weight, and then snorted half of it. Barely felt anything, so I snorted the other half. Still, the effects were minimal. This happens to me with ketamine. Each time I do it, the tolerance goes up faster. I got out the bag and just eyeballed another line, as the 100 milligrams was not very noticeable. Now it was working again. I turned off the lights and sat cross-legged on the floor. I began to meditate, as I have been doing daily in the past months. This was greatly centering, and I saw an ocean of blue, blinking information through my closed eyelids. I thought about technology and consciousness and biology, all subjects seamlessly relating to one another, a great web of existence. This part of the experience is somewhat hard to describe, and I am not sure how long it lasted. It had some ecstatic parts and some nightmare-like parts, but overall was balanced. After a while of drifting through this information, I decided to lay down and try to sleep. I felt very awake and was totally unable to sleep. I did another unmeasured line at around 3 or 4 a.m. I realized I wouldn't be sleeping and just sat smoking pot. The sun came up, and my cat came to the window to listen to the sounds outside. I watched him listen and felt a strange connection to him, like I was hearing everything he was. This was very peaceful and pleasant. Eventually, my girlfriend got up for work, and I was very glad to see her. I felt very centered, the afterglow feeling that some dissociatives can create after they wear off. I told her that I thought my experience had been therapeutic, cathartic. I compared it to defragmenting a hard drive, taking my mind apart and putting it back together in a more intentional way. I do think this drug could have therapeutic value, and the kind of death and rebirth therapy. I did feel reborn. I felt clean, even though I was still a little whacked out. I took a shower and noticed that my lips looked purple and blue, like I had been doing nitrous oxide. This was verified by my sober girlfriend and was somewhat concerning, as I had read on one trip report of this drug where the user described problems with breathing. I didn't notice any problems subjectively, but the blue lips definitely made it seem like I was a little oxygen deprived. I was unable to sleep till about noon of the next day, when I smoked a DMT-laced joint for one last peek of the world I had visited the night before. The DMT was very calming, and I felt relaxed coming down from it, and finally fading into sleep. I slept from noon to 9:30 p.m. I ate a big dinner and fell asleep again from 11 p.m. to 10 a.m. the next day. When I woke up, I still felt a bit tired and whacked out, having a mild but persistent headache. I felt increased sensitivity to light and some irritability upon going out in public, although the pleasant insights of the trip remained. This hangover effect was much stronger and longer lasting than if I had just done a bunch of ketamine. All in all, this drug is very interesting and unique, almost more confusing than ketamine in my opinion. It definitely was not as euphoric or as fun as ketamine. I have also read of people describing this drug as having opiate-like effects. I didn't have any nodding, itching, or warm blanket over the body sensations akin to opiates. Alright everyone, that is the end of our story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Share with us your experiences in the comments below. Check out the other videos and playlists on my channel. And I will see you in the next one, fam. Deuces.